All right, breaking this morning, for the first time, former Vice President Kamala Harris reveals her thoughts about President Biden's decision not to run for re-election. The Atlantic just published excerpts from her new book. She writes, quote, "It's Joe and Jill's decision. We all said that like a mantra, as if we'd all been hypnotized. Was it grace or was it recklessness? In retrospect, I think it was recklessness. The stakes were simply too high. This wasn't a choice that should have been left to an individual's ego, an individual's ambition. It should have been more than a personal decision." Now, on the other hand, she challenges the notion that there was a White House cover-up. She writes, quote, "Many people want to spin up a narrative of some big conspiracy at the White House to hide Joe Biden's infirmity. Here is the truth as I lived it. Joe Biden was a smart guy with long experience and deep conviction, able to discharge the duties of president. On his worst day, he was more deeply knowledgeable, more capable of exercising judgment, and far more compassionate than Donald Trump on his best. But at 81, Joe got tired. That's when his age showed in physical and verbal stumbles. I don't think it's any surprise that the debate debacle happened right after 2 back-to-back trips to Europe and a flight to the West Coast for a Hollywood fundraiser. I don't believe it was incapacity. If I believed that, I would have said so. As loyal as I am to President Biden, I am more loyal to the country." Let's get right to CNN political commentator Bakari Sellers and Maura Gillespie, former press advisor to then House Speaker John Boehner. Bakari, first to you. That first almost mea culpa, saying recklessness not to question Joe Biden's decision to run again. What do you see there?
No, I think it's right. And I think that many of us throughout this campaign, I came on the air many times over and over and over again, said that it was Joe Biden's decision whether or not he was going to run for president again. It wasn't for Jon Stewart or the Pod Save America guys or anybody else to push him out the race. It was literally his decision to make that choice. And I think what she's saying is that in hindsight, yes, it was his decision, but more people should have been involved in that decision-making process. It wasn't the kind of circular firing squad that Democrats had, which proved to be reckless in itself, but it was the fact that more people should have been allowed in Joe Biden's inner circle so that we could have a decision, because I think that we should have fully grasped that it was more than one person's ego. It was a country at stake.
Maura, what do you think of what she said about, had she believed he was incapable of doing the job, she would have spoken up?
I do think she's curtailing it a little bit to, protect the fact that she still is loyal to Joe Biden in a lot of ways. She served as his vice president. I'm sure he also recognized that the position she was in, having been a vice president prior, and knowing that, the staff can be brutal at times because it's easier to put the blame on the vice president than it is to accept any blame as the president. But I do think it's interesting, and I'm curious to read more from the book as far as why she had people like Anita Dunn and Jen O'Malley Dillon in her inner circle, knowing what they were, putting on her when they were running the president's campaign. So I find it a little bit of an easy out.
It is interesting. I mean, she did bring in her own people to work alongside the campaign officials who were already there, but she does point fingers inside the Biden administration, to be sure. Let me read 2 more quotes, and this has to do with her time as vice president, Bakari, where she did not feel supported by the West Wing. She wrote, "They, as in the White House, had a huge comms team. They had Karine Jean-Pierre briefing in the press room every day, but getting anything positive said about my work or defense against untrue attacks was almost impossible." Then Harris continues in these brand new excerpts, "And when the stories were unfair or inaccurate, the president's inner circle seemed fine with it. Indeed, it seemed as if they decided I should be knocked down a little more." You were an early prominent supporter of then Senator Harris in her campaign, but I know you have connections inside. What do you think of this sentiment?
Well, first of all, I didn't have connections inside the White House, and I think that's part of the reason was my loyalty to the Vice President of the United States. But Maura was right. I mean, Valerie Biden Owens, Jen O'Malley Dillon, Anita Dunn made life very, very difficult for Kamala Harris when she was Vice President of the United States. And by making life difficult for her, the reason that she had to keep them on is because she only had 107 days left. And so you can't flip the ship completely upside down when you're running for President of the United States. But it's no secret to those people in and around the White House and the Vice President that there were people, one, who did not want her to be vice president because they carried this grudge from the debate in Miami all the way through. And the other thing was that when she became vice president, they just made it very, very difficult for her. And I think that when you have a vice president who has that age, who has a future, there's always this, and it's not just Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, but there's always a question about ambition. And so whenever Kamala Harris did something correct or wanted to have a platform, they shot that down. When I came on air and said that her portfolio was trash, it made news and they were not thrilled about that. But her portfolio, when she first got started, was trash and unachievable. But things changed. And so Joe Biden and Kamala Harris love each other. The people around Joe Biden, I would say not so much.
Maura, Jeffrey Goldberg, who wrote a preamble to the excerpts in The Atlantic today, basically said the news here is that there's news, that she pushes the envelope a little bit in terms of new information out there. Take that one step further. Do you think this is news that Democrats are happy about being released this September when some of the political winds have begun blowing in their direction? The jobs numbers have been dismal. President Trump is taking fire on the Jeffrey Epstein situation. How much do you think this makes Democrats uncomfortable right now?
It probably makes a handful of them uncomfortable, but I think at the same time, when you have, Zohran Mamdani running in New York City and the Democratic Party is blanching to even talk about it, they have to start to get at the core of their issues and figure out what the next step looks like for them if they want to win back a midterm, if they want to win back in 2028. And so dealing with the reality of what happened in 24 is maybe the first step. And I'm sure they're not thrilled by this, but maybe they need to take a look in the mirror, especially for those who are in the inner circle who are purporting to play a role in the next few elections. They really need to be thinking about what role they played, and having it shown a light like this for Biden's inner circle, the West Wing, I think that's important because we should know who is running it.
Maura Gillespie, Bakari Sellers, thanks to both of you. Appreciate it.